So today I'm going to be talking about the Communist Manifesto, written in 1847, published in 1848 by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. This is just my overall analysis of the book slash text, and today I'm going to be talking about the ideas and theories explained throughout the book and how the text itself and the ideas behind it contributed to the world, and in other words, why it's considered a world classic. So in order to really understand the idea of the Communist Manifesto, you have to understand what communism is. And the book definition of communism is a system in which goods are owned in common and are available to all as needed. And to put that into layman's terms, everybody has everything whenever they need it, and everyone is sort of equal. And the foundation of this, which I'm going to talk about the next slide, is the difference between classes and social struggles. So, how does Marx explain the class struggles throughout the text? So, part one is all about the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. And the bourgeoisie are the minority, so the less amount of people, but they own most of society's wealth and means of production. So, they are kind of the middle class. They're not royalty, but they're the middle class. And they are said to oppress the proletariat, who are the working class. That's where most of the people are. And Marx theorized that the bourgeoisie would use their influence to oppress the proletariat, and he basically explains that the middle class, the bourgeoisie, need the proletariat people to work for them in order to maintain their wealth. And that really is kind of the whole theme of part one. And the book opens up with a quote on the bottom, which basically explains this theory of that the upper class need the lower class in order to maintain their wealth. And this can be seen throughout history, not only in 1848 when this book was published, but also today when you have people like Elon Musk or celebrities that dictate the people below them by using their wealth. So the quote that I have right here is actually the final words of the text, and it states, "Let the ruling classes tremble at a communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite." And so how does this really relate to the idea of communism? So during the period when this book was written, it's 1848, it's the middle of the industrialization period, so all these new factories and buildings are being created, meaning that the middle class is hiring these proletarians to go in and work in these unsanitary, dangerous conditions for little money. And so, self-explanatory, the proletariat people agree with this statement that they should start the communist revolution and that they really don't have anything to lose because they're being held down by the middle class, which is stated here, nothing to lose but their chains. And really, this quote introduces how this book really is a world classic and the influence that it had on European government throughout the years. So, is the Communist Manifesto a world classic? It's a revolutionary writing, and of course it is. It's considered to be one of the most read books of all time, and it's the creation and the formation of Marxism and communism, which at the time were new forms of ideology that could have potentially changed government, economics, and class struggles throughout the world. And this book and its ideas were the foundation for so many movements, and I'm going to get into those on the next slide. So, how did this book, the Communist Manifesto, influence the world? So, on the left is a picture from the Russian Communist Revolution, which started in 1917 and ended in about 1923. This was between the time when the First World War was happening, and the Russian Revolution had three main causes: political, social, and economics, which are all talked about throughout the Communist Manifesto. This revolution eventually created the Soviet Union, which was the communist state of Russia. On the right is another example of how communism shaped a country, and this is the Communist Party in Germany. This is an ad campaign / protest. It was created in 1918, which was later banned by Hitler when he and the Nazis took over. And not only is the Communist Party of Germany an example of how communism spread and how this book created this movement, but it also shows criticism because Hitler and his fascism and Nazism opposed the idea of communism and opposed the idea that everyone was equal. And Hitler was so opposed that in Nazi Germany, that the first 100 prisoners in Dachau, which was a German concentration camp, were actually members of the Communist Party. So the opposing theory to communism is fascism, and fascism is, long story short, glory through war, fighting, conquest, and it's usually ruled by a dictator. And some of the key differences here is that while communism is based on economic equality and classless society, fascism is nationalistic and has rigid class roles, and like I said, is usually ruled by a dictator. And some examples of fascist dictators are Hitler or Mussolini in Italy. Another key difference is that fascism allows for private property, but communism is strongly against any form of private property or capitalism of any kind. Some of the religion aspects. Communism rejects any form of religion, while fascism is considered itself to be a religion and states that our fascists will only support religions that are tied to the state itself. And in this little graph here, you can just see that some of the similarities that they do have, while there are few, is that there is sometimes dictator rule, which can be the case for communism with Stalin, and anti-democracy and capitalism overall. So, does the Communist Manifesto stand the test of time? Yes. Communist to this day is still a very relevant form of government. It can be seen in countries like China, which is currently ruled under the CCP, Cuba, currently ruled under the Communist Party of Cuba, Laos and Vietnam, both countries in South Asia, and it was seen in Russia until the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991. And these are all just kind of examples of how this book has influenced the world and how it continues to influence the world through its ideas and examples given by Marx and Engels.